Who was John Brown? Brown was a radical abolitionist who was for the removal of slavery. He believed in the violent overthrow of the slavery system. In fact, during the Bleeding Kansas conflicts, Brown and his sons led attacks on pro slavery residents. He justified these attacks as the Northern extremists soon developed a heroic image of Brown, and this gained him many followers, who then, by early 1858, enlisted in his small army of insurrectionists, whose mission was to arouse rebellion among the slaves and commence his abolition.
The results of this raid. In the attempt to end slavery, John Brown conducted a raid to try to end slavery. The raid failed drastically. 10 out of the 22 died, including Brown's 2 sons. The remaining were caught by Robert E. Lee and Lieutenant J.E.B. Stuart. After their capture, they were put on trial and executed. Brown's statements during the trial, November 2nd, reached the nation. The result of this raid set off a series of events that changed America and further divided the North and South. Some quotes from John Brown. I, John Brown, am not quite certain that the guilty land will never be purged away with blood. But I feel no consciousness of guilt. I have stated that from the first what was my intention and what was not. I never had any design against the life of any person, nor any disposition to commit treason, or excite slaves to rebel, or make any general insurrection. I never encouraged any man to do so, but always discouraged any idea of that kind. I have only a short time to live, only one death to die, and I will die fighting for this cause. There will be no peace in this land until slavery is done for.
What are the significance of this raid? Brown's raid is one of the most important events that helped start the Civil War. The raid helped increase mistrust and tension between the North and the South. This raid is also significant because not only Southerners saw it as a slave rebellion, but they also saw it as a Northern invasion. The Southerners feared future insurrections and Northern annexation. This resulted Brown's raid also made an impact on the 1860 election on February 27th. Abraham Lincoln delivered his Cooper Union address in New York, and there he mentioned Brown's raid in his address. He said that he didn't stand on one side very strongly. He chose a very moderate view on slavery, which is exactly what the Republican Party wanted on their nominee. 10 months later, he was elected as the President of the United States. And the last significant factor is that in that time period, it was rare to see a white man oppose slavery so strongly, and the way he chose to go about it caused so much notoriety.
When asked the question, what is the legacy of John Brown, the leader of the raid on Harper's Ferry in 1859, it was difficult to find one clear-cut answer. In fact, in the 150 years or so since the Civil War, the perception of John Brown has changed from martyr and inspiration to raving maniac and terrorist time and time again. Historians do agree that John Brown's raid escalated tensions that would lead to the Civil War just a year later. By the 1880s, even peers of Brown, most of whom were embarrassed by their passionate abolitionism, became critical of his actions. They cited his involvement in Bleeding Kansas, where he orchestrated the murder of 5 pro-slavery settlers, as proof of him being a fanatic killer. In 1910, journalist Oswald Villard, a grandson of famous abolitionist William Lloyd Garrison, called him a bumbling homicidal maniac and heavily criticized him in his biography of Brown. By the 1950s, scholars were convinced he was an insane fanatic killer. In the 21st century, however, many new works have been published by authors like Luis de Caro and Paul Finkelman, which have given a more appreciative view similar to the ones held by scholar W.E.B. Du Bois. A handful of 21st century historians agree that Brown is comparable to modern-day terrorists like Timothy McVeigh, while some, like De Caro, state his actions were religiously charged. And over the past 150 years, Brown has been called things like terrorist, fanatic, and maniac. However, the term most often used to describe him is martyr, which is one who dies for religious beliefs. In the 21st century, it seems the perception of Brown has shifted from terrorist to a martyr whose acts are considered a necessary evil and die because his religious beliefs made him despise slavery so strongly.